Attention, drive-in mutants. The management would like me to inform you that the bathroom is still out of order. And unfortunately, it's extra tentacly today. We did have a plumber come by to look at it yesterday. Memorial services for him will be held Sunday at 2:30 at the Unita Funeral Home.
Yeah, I don't blame you for passing on the popcorn. Could I interest you in a heart or a severed limb? Right. Give me a hand, new guy. Enjoy your movie. Got any questions, new guy?
It's Jeff, actually. One question. What's wrong with the popcorn?
Try a bucket and see.
Has anyone ever tried it?
A few customers and a few small animals.
And what happened to them?
Hi, Kill. Hey, buddy.
So that's why my tray was so heavy. Veronica, can we euthanize this thing?
Hey, no, we can't kill. I mean, look at him. Plus, I don't think he can be killed. Also, only thing that can fix the projector when it's on the fritz. How was the take tonight?
Almost sold out.
Wow.
I know, I didn't think our clientele was this cultured.
Why? What are we showing?
Excellent question, Ronnie.
It's Jeff, actually.
Tonight, drive-in mutants, we bring you a tale most chilling, most thrilling, most bone-shattering. I am, of course, talking about the action-packed Wild Strawberries, the 1957 Swedish classic directed by Master of Masters Ingmar Bergman, featuring chilling reflections of the past, thrilling humanism, and bone-shattering existential questions as to the nature of life, death, and family. It is, quite simply, a great way to spend a peaceful April evening. The film concerns Professor Isaac...
It's not April?
What?
He said it's not April.
Well, of course it is. I screen Wild Strawberries every April.
I think you might be going off of your Korn calendar from 1999 that you got off of eBay that I told you not to get for this exact reason.
The one that she told you not to hang right there because of this exact reason.
So, what month is it?
June.
It's June Claude Van Damme!
Where is that music coming from?
That's right, drive-in mutants. It's June Claude Van Damme. A month-long celebration of action cinema and the muscles from Brussels himself, the incomparable Jean-Claude Van Damme. Forget Wild Strawberries. We're pulling out the big guns tonight.
Well, I'll let the people outside know that we're exchanging Swedish art house for 90s action. You're doing great, new guy. I thought you'd be long gone by now.
It's Jeff, actually. What did you mean by that?
Jean-Claude Camille Francois van Varenberg was just your average hapless young Belgian nerd studying the ballet who, fed up with being bullied, decided to become a 3-time European kickboxing champion as well. And it's that early combination of dance and combat training that would result in Van Damme's signature on-screen style. The splits, low sweeps, and high-leaping spin kicks that populate his set pieces. Action filmmaking, specifically fight scenes, are a marriage of combat technique and precise, dance-like choreography. So Van Damme, the ballerina kickboxer, perhaps more than any of his peers, was tailor-made to be an action star of his era. Van Damme landed his first major on-screen role as the villain in the truly bizarre and ridiculously entertaining No Retreat, No Surrender. But it wasn't until his breakout starring turn in Bloodsport, followed quickly by Cyborg and then Kickboxer, that catapulted him to action icon and household name. Van Damme would go on to star in a string of action hits in the late 80s and early 90s, such as Death Warrant, Lionheart, Double Impact, and Universal Soldier. In the prime of his career, Van Damme was more of a Stallone than a Schwarzenegger, and that he would take an active creative role in almost every project he was attached to. He would co-write screenplays and participate heavily in the editing process. Now, such behavior invariably earns an actor a reputation as difficult to work with, but as is the case with Sly's work, that close proximity to all aspects of his productions does give Van Damme's movies a unifying quality, a uniqueness, a Van Damme-ness, if you will. And perhaps it was Van Damme's creative drive that steered him towards working with action masters from Hong Kong trying to break into the Hollywood system. He would eventually make Double Team and Knock Off with Choi Hark and Maximum Risk with Ringo Lam. But first, he would collaborate with the true action auteur of Hong Kong cinema at the time, John Woo. And the movie they would make together is tonight's feature, 1993's Hard Target. Now, after directing a string of some of the greatest action movies ever made, John Woo was looking to expand his horizons and make the leap to Hollywood. Finally landing on Hard Target as his American debut, Woo initially wanted Kurt Russell for the lead role of Chance Bordeaux. Unfortunately, Kurt Russell was busy being the greatest action hero of the 90s. But when Woo heard that Van Damme was cast in the role, he immediately started beefing up the action, and to good effect. Universal was initially nervous about hiring Woo, primarily due to the language barrier and the, tendency for studios to only trust white dudes. So they got a white dude to shadow Woo on set, who could step in as director if Woo started doing anything too crazy. Like having Van Damme punch a snake, or having Wilford Brimley shoot flaming arrows from a horse while a house exploded behind him. Fortunately for Woo and us, the white dude they got to shadow him was none other than genre god Sam Raimi. Raimi was a huge fan of Woo's and actually became a buffer between Woo and the studio, protecting the filmmaker and production from outside interference. In Raimi's own words, John Woo at 70% is still going to blow away most American action directors working at 100%. A toast to Sam Raimi. Hard Target was written by Chuck Farrer, who based the story on the 1932 novel The Most Dangerous Game by Gavin Leal. The director of photography was Russell Carpenter, who would shoot many an iconic Hollywood blockbuster, most notably for James Cameron, eventually winning an Oscar for his work on a little film called Titanic. The movie was edited by Bob Murawski, who was and remains Sam Raimi's go-to editor. His editing gives Woo's film a retro action cartoon vibe, not dissimilar to Raimi's own 90s work, like Darkman or The Quick and the Dead. The editing, along with Carpenter's cinematography and really all other elements of Hard Target, elevates the pulpy tale out of its typical weight class, resulting in the dark, weird, sincere, violent fairy tale we are about to see. So, without further ado, let's watch a 90s action film directed by a Chinese auteur starring a Belgian movie star made with American money. If there was a Mount Rushmore of our beloved films at the Dead End Drive-In, this movie would be Abraham Lincoln. I present to you a June Claude Van Damme gift from our holy mother of celluloid. This is Hard Target. have faith in that little abomination. He'll get the projector up and working again. In the meantime, we can all sit and discuss our feelings on the first act of Hard Target. What did you think, Ronnie?
It's Jeff, actually. And I thought it was really sad when that girl's dad died.
That it is. But she's got Van Damme with her now. So she may have lost her father.
Don't.
But she gained
Don't say it.
a daddy.
I'm putting in my 2 weeks' notice.
And don't you just love how Van Damme says daddy in this?
Daddy. Daddy. Daddy.
Yeah, I love it too. What else do you love about Hard Target, Ronnie?
It's Jeff, actually. I really dig the location.
Yes! The importance of the setting of Hard Target cannot be overstated. The production shot on location in New Orleans for 65 days. The NOLA in Hard Target is hot, sweaty outlaw country. The story just wouldn't feel the same in Bill Lustig's New York or Michael Mann's L.A. The locations amplify the spaghetti western vibe of the movie. Yancey Butler may as well be Claudia Cardinal from Once Upon a Time in the West, a strong but vulnerable woman coming to a strange town to find her family murdered by psychopaths. The police are on strike, except for Cassie Lemons' Detective May, giving her a Gary Cooper, lone sheriff, and a bad town edge. And Van Damme? Eastwood all the way. Just trade the poncho for a black trench coat and the hat for that mullet. And does it get any better than Van Damme pulling his coat back like a gunslinger? Except instead of revealing a six-shooter, it's just that WMD of a leg. Great pull, Ronnie. You're doing so good, man. Still kicking after all these hours. You may have the potential for longevity, Ronnie.
Jeff, what do you mean by that exactly?
What else do I love about Hard Target? In a word, everything. Hard Target was a modest hit upon release, but has become a cult classic with fiercely loyal fans in the 30 years since its release. Why? Obviously, the reappraisal of these types of action movies and its more idiosyncratic elements play a hand in its cult status, but I believe it goes deeper than that. Hard Target as a narrative is simply more poignant and relevant today than it was in 1993. It features a financially desperate hero and supporting characters who can barely afford dinner or are actually homeless. Too often in action movies, our characters are either casually wealthy, outright rich, or comfortably nestled in an unrealistic middle-class existence. If the characters are poor and impoverished, they're still usually agents of the status quo, like cops or soldiers. But Hard Target is about real people either living on the street or one missed paycheck away from living on the street. It's a movie about how casually the rich discount the lives of the poor. Just look at this scene. A homeless black ex-war veteran, unarmed, hunted by millionaires with guns, wading into a public space, begging people to help him. And no one does anything. It's like they don't even see him. The rest of Hard Target may be escapist fun, but this scene shakes me to my core. The movie's power is amplified due to events that occurred in the real world after its completion that the filmmakers could have had no knowledge of. Things like Hurricane Katrina, the Great Recession, Black Lives Matter, celebrity billionaires going publicly insane and hurting people with impunity. If this movie came out today, a subset of the audience would probably call it a woke manifesto, while the other subset might probably call it a gun violence endorsing exercise in misogyny. Like the game the poor homeless men play in Hard Target, some battles can't be won. All of these are themes that can be retroactively applied to this on-the-surface silly action movie. May not have been the intention at the time, but that's the beauty of reappraisal and what J.R.R. Tolkien heralded as the benefits of applicability over allegory. So what I'm saying is, Hard Target is a lot more than just its action.
Projector's fixed.
Thank God. Let's soothe our crushed souls with Jean Claude crushing some windpipes, shall we? Hard Target continues.
No, I'm not seeing a chartreuse wire here, bud. Yeah, there's a lot of exposed wiring down here. Are you kidding me? I don't think the projector's gonna happen.
Unacceptable. We absolutely cannot deprive the audience of the last reel of Hard Target.
We deprive the audience of the last reel all the time. We actually put up a bumper that says, sorry, last reel missing, no refunds. I mean, half the audience doesn't even make it out alive to see the last reel anyway.
Hi, sir. Welcome to the. Oh!
Ain't gonna be no last reel, Four Eyes.
It's Jeff, actually.
It's bad enough you cancel this Italian neorealism festival and replace it with a disgusting Giallo marathon. But now, you advertise wild strawberries, and you replace it with this violent, vulgar video vomit.
Hey. Now, I love introspective Swedish masterworks as much as the next man. But no one insults Hard Target at the Dead End Drive-In.
I'm gonna butcher you, like the Criterion Collection butchered the color grade on Wong Kar-wai's In the Mood for Love. A love story should emphasize red tones.
Oh, you thought you were going to fight me? Sorry, but the only trash I deal in is the kind projected in glorious 35mm.
What? I'm supposed to be afraid of Josephine?
This must be what Josef von Sternberg felt like when he was forced to abandon I, Claudius mid-production.
I thought you were just a car hop.
I'm the bouncer. Part-time car hop.
Good job, Zoe. I thought that was finally it for the new guy.
Me too.
Me too.
All right. For one thing, it's Jeff, all right? Jeff! Second of all, why do you all keep saying things like finally it, and still kicking? I mean, what are you all talking about?
Well, new employees here have a tendency to, die on the job.
All right. You guys had me coming for a sec. How many employees have died?
Well, first there was Jimmy with the nail gun, then there was Susan with acid, and then there was Tommy with the flesh-eating alien virus. That one was nasty. And then there was Desmond who got electrocuted. Electrocution is the worst. I mean, the eyeballs pop, and it's just nasty. And then there was about 1 or 2 dozen others. And then there was Ronnie. He got melted.
Melted? Melted how?
Loudly.
Good action filmmaking, like good comedy, is about as difficult to pull off as anything in cinema, which is why it's so infuriating that the genre is often written off entirely. Styles of action come in waves, and here to talk more about contemporary action trends is Veronica.
Well, about 20 years ago, action movies moved into a more close, handheld aesthetic, which you see more in the Bourne movies and the Taken series. The idea was to have the audience feel like they were in the fight, but it rarely worked and honestly looked awful. About 10 years ago, a new trend arose where the action was put in a more full-frame aesthetic. So these are your movies like Raid, John Wick, and Atomic Blonde. This style of action was primarily spearheaded by stuntmen turned directors, and it really shows. It's really cool to watch, and a lot of these movies are masterpieces.
But what if we could have legible action along with the necessary cutting to emphasize the narrative and the physical impact of the fighting? Well, that would be very difficult to pull off. You'd have to be a master of action like a Miller or a Cameron or a Peckinpah or a John Woo. A master can use any tool without losing control. Woo will pull back, go in tight, manipulate time to let the audience live in a moment, repeat moments of impact so they really feel them, all while never confusing the audience as to where the characters are geographically or narratively. People often call this type of movie mindless, but creating a good one is anything but. Cinematographer Russell Carpenter has gone on record regarding how difficult it was to pull off Woo's action. And this is coming from a man who literally filmed an entire opening sequence of a movie at the actual Titanic. Woo's violence is poetic, operatic, balletic. So what better conduit for his style of action than a ballet dancer turned ass-kicker? Woo's framing and editing and Van Damme's graceful brutality are a match made in henchman-wrecking heaven. There are few things sweeter to behold in cinema than a slow-motion spin kick to some asshole's face. I am not using hyperbole. This right here is pure cinema. Action movies are not rare. Good action movies are as rare as true love, and just as worth running through the streets like a madman screaming about.
Okay, Kill. We're gonna call it. I'm sorry, man. Projector's done.
No! There has to be a way!
New guy, come hold these wires. Come on.
It's Jeff.
Yeah.
She's not listening.
Okay, bud. Tell me why you love this movie so much.
Well, if there was a Mount Rushmore of favorite movies here at the Dead End Drive-In...
Yeah, it would be the Abraham Lincoln, but tell me why it's so important to you.
Can I tell our fellow drive-in mutants?
I would expect nothing less.
A few years ago, this place... There was a... Well, let's just say a darkness came over it. A terrible darkness. Some of it's still here, honestly. You can see it sometimes. In the corner of your eye. That's a story for another time, and it happened long before any of you started coming to the drive-in. But it was hard. And one night, a dark, very scary night, I sat here, and I almost didn't throw that switch. But I did. And what was playing? The John Woo directed, Jean Claude Van Damme starring, Hard Target. And after I watched Hard Target, the darkness subsided. Not forever. Never stays away forever. But enough to get up the next day and want to throw that switch. And ever since then, this movie has never ceased to transport me back into that feeling. A feeling of peace and fun. I guess I'm kinda like Professor Isak Borg in Wild Strawberries, as played by Victor Hertzstrom in his last on-screen role. Isak has his patch of wild strawberries to finally conjure peace of mind after many a dark hour of shame and pain, and I have Hard Target to do the same. Because that's what good art does. Good art can change and open minds. But maybe just as importantly, it can ease them. And if you take nothing from me, take this. Good art, the kind that can save you, can come from anywhere. even from a gory 90s action movie starring a Belgian ballerina kickboxer. Hard Target is good art. It's also fucking badass. So, Ronnie.
It's Jeff, actually. Ronnie melted, remember?
You can't let the dread rule you, even if we are seriously talking about your imminent demise. The truth is, we're all gonna die one day. Me, Veronica, Kill.
Hey, I'm telling you, that thing can't be killed.
We all have the sword of Damocles hanging over our heads. So what if you're far more statistically likely to go before us? You just gotta find that thing to help you survive that cold black pit of dread and despair, like Hard Target did for me. Do that, and you'll see that it doesn't really matter what happens to you in the near future.
Oh man, you guys getting fried.
It's Jeff, actually!
Turn over the eyeballs.
Okay, who had electrocution?
Me. Well, looks like the projector's fixed. Too bad the new guy's not going to be able to watch the last reel.
Oh, I wouldn't worry about that too much. That Ronnie seemed like a nice guy. And in heaven, they're always playing the last reel of Hard Target.
Hunting season is over.
All right, got that out of the way. Now we can watch Wild Strawberries. Kill.